Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a commentary for you about all or nothing. When to throw down, when to go all in, and when to go for the long shots. The gameplay that you're going to see from me today is a KSG with silencer, red dot sight, quick draw handle, ghost, lightweight, I believe toughness, and lastly dexterity because I can't live without those last two. This is going to be just a nice clip from Carrier, and then we're going to move over to a much more challenging game that I had on Studio, but I kept throwing down, I kept going in, and it turned into a good game despite a rocky start. I think all the games I post on this channel are with a rocky start. The KSG is what I would like to describe as my favorite all or nothing gun. This gun has the best potential of almost any gun in the game. It is an amazing gun, but it is very difficult to use. It's very difficult to use properly, effectively, to get a good feel for, and even if you do use it right, even if you do have a lot of skill, it is a tad bit unpredictable. Speaking of which, let's move back onto the unpredictability of user messages. I get a lot of interesting ones from aliens, UFOs, shoutouts, that sort of thing, but one of the more common ones I get is people seeking advice. I don't know why you seek advice from me, how I'm qualified to give advice, but I do try to help a little bit. The more common things people want advice on is if they should do something, if they should try to become a professional athlete, if they should choose this path in school, if they should try to hook up with this girl, if they should try to reach out with a family member that is abusing people or being abused or needs some love or something like that. And the question isn't necessarily what would be the best way to go about this, how should I do this, because they've already decided to do it. The question is more frequently, should I do this at all, should I try to do this, should I reach out, should I put forth the effort for this sort of thing. So I decided to make a commentary today about when you should try, how you should try, and when to go all in. The most common problem that people in general have is just not trying, just deciding to wait it out, to wait for something to happen, to maybe something will plop in my lap, instead of going out and seeking that thing. There are lots of people that are armchair experts in sports and psychology and any sort of medical field, in gaming as well. There are lots of people that just don't go out and do it, and the problem is that this is not an anime. Real life is not an anime, and I know not all of you are in anime, but a lot of them have a sort of stock story of a normal person, typically male, in a normal town, and they're bored with their life and they want something cool to happen, and then all of a sudden there's a magical dragon that attacks the city, or aliens or something. Some of the easier ones would be like FLCL or Eureka 7, where it's a very prototypical sort of thing, and this is people's fantasy. Every day you think, maybe something cool will happen to me. Maybe while I go to the grocery store there'll be a gunfight and I'll save everybody's life. Maybe I'll get invited to join a pro team. Maybe I'll meet somebody cool that'll suck me into an alternate world, the one that I really want to be in, the life that I really want to chase. But instead of actually going out and trying to do these sort of things to actually better yourself or better whatever sort of goals you have, most people just decide to sit and wait instead of just throwing down and going all in, and that never works. You're not going to become a famous actor just meeting people at the Quickie Mart in LA. You're not going to become an athlete watching football, or maybe coaching children. You have to train yourself, you have to work really hard, and you're not going to get rich by just sitting back thinking you have a business idea. This goes back to something I see very commonly quoted on Reddit. I forget where the original quote was from, but it's that Americans don't like socialism because they don't see themselves as being underclass but merely inconvenienced millionaires, because the perception is in this country anybody can get rich, and everybody's kind of got a get rich plan, but not everybody really does it. Not many people really throw in and go down and really work hard on that business and try to get it going and try to actually make the get rich plan work. And that's the same kind of way people play with the KSG here in Black Ops 2. A lot of players pick up the KSG and like, okay, it's a shotgun, it's going to get me some kills, and it doesn't. The KSG is not a normal shotgun. It just doesn't roll over and give you kills like the 870 MCS. It's not easy like the MSMC or the PDW. You have to work really hard to tear people up with this gun, and usually what happens in a game like this, I'll use the KSG, somebody will see me doing fairly well with it and decide, you know what, that KSG is actually awesome, I'm going to do that. And they do it, but they don't quite do it the right way. They use it like a regular shotgun. They only go for the easy kills, the low-hanging fruit, the people right in front of them, and they don't actually go for the long shots. The KSG is, I feel, designed to be a very long-range shotgun, an ultimate skill, high-potential shotgun in close-quarters combat, but perhaps the only long-range shotgun that you can really use effectively here. But you have to go for the headshots. They're not just going to give them up to you. It's not going to be easy. The KSG has wobbly sights. It's very difficult, but you can ding people in the head from really long ranges and insta-kill them. You can outclass some assault rifles in this game with the KSG if your skill cap is high enough, if you try for it, and if you go for it. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do in this commentary if you haven't figured that out already. If you have a goal in life, if you have a goal in Call of Duty, if you have something you want, you have to go for for it. You have to reach out and grab it and take it because nobody's going to be handing it to you on a silver platter. I've got a few real life examples for you here. The first one comes from when I was in about, I think it was 11th grade football, so that would be my junior year of football. I was not considered the strongest person. My specialty was defense. I was a defensive lineman. I was 175 pounds of defensive lineman, and my specialty was sacking the quarterback. They'd usually put me in at nose guard and nose tackle, and for those of you overseas, this matches me up against people that are much, much larger, much stronger than me, and in this particular example, we were playing a team. This was private school, by the way, all white boys, that sort of stuff, so the skill cap was lower, but the school we were playing had a penchant for recruiting other better players from public schools, and they would offer them scholarships to come play at the private school, so they'd really skew how the league plays, and they'd like pick up the best people, and my team was just getting demolished, and the coach decided that he wanted to punish the quarterback, so he puts me in, and it's me, and I'm at nose guard, nose tackle, and I'm kind of, I got a huge guy on my left and a huge guy on my right, even in just basic, these kids are probably 16, 17, maybe 18, and they're 300 plus pounds, 6'5", some fat, some muscle, pretty good mix, big monsters. I'm 175 pounds of skinny, barely in shape with the rest of the team guy, and I am supposed to just blow these guys out of the way, and that's not going to happen. So I decide, you know what, I want to do this. I want to knock down that quarterback. I want to show these big guys up, and I want to feel like a badass. That's what I want, but I'm not going to be able to do it through my own just raw strength, so I have to do a riskier plan. I have to throw down, I have to go all or nothing and go in, and what I decide to do is try and jump their snap count, try and kind of preempt the start of the play, and that would be kind of like, pre-firing around corners here in Black Ops, and actually kind of spin around backwards and twist my body and squeeze in between these two giant guys, because I think I might be faster than they are, maybe. Some of these big guys will fool you, some of them are pretty fast, and I'm going to reach back and grab that quarterback and drag him to the ground. And that's almost what happened when the ball snapped. I was able to preempt the count by probably a quarter of a second. I jump and dive in between the two huge guys. These guys aren't dumb, weak, or slow. They saw what was coming, so they kind of smashed in on each other just to kind of crush me. Thankfully, I was a little bit faster than them, and mostly what they got was hip and legs, and me being a taller fellow, 6'2", I was able to reach past them, grab the quarterback, and drag him down to the ground and look awesome for about 30 seconds, and then the next play they utterly crushed me out of meanness, but it worked. Another good example is when I had to play Pee-wee football as a kid. I was probably 9, 10 years old. Not Pee-wee football, Pee-wee baseball. And the problem with this is that my parents were divorced, and the way they shared custody, my summers were also split. So I liked playing baseball just a little bit for me, but mostly because my dad was big into sports, and I wanted my dad to be proud of me, and I wanted him to see that I could do well and play with all the other kids, but I always missed training because my mother had custody of me while they were training, so I got no training, and I always had to come in and be the weird new kid that didn't train for the month in summer, that missed the first couple games, and now he gets to play with the rest of us. Who is this guy? Why is he allowed to do that? They made special exceptions for me because my dad knew the people, and he asked, and it was always rough, and I was always bad. And this year, I really didn't want to be bad. I wanted my dad to be proud of me. I wanted him to say, look, my son can play baseball. All the people out there watching me, just a small town, dusty sort of baseball diamond, little league stuff. But for me, when I'm 9 and 10, it feels awesome. It feels like there's like 100 people watching me. There's probably more than that, but it feels like a big stadium when you're a little kid. It feels important. And I'm sweating, and I decide I want this. I want to go for it. And when they throw the ball at me, I just swing as hard as I possibly can, not really even aiming for the ball or trying to do anything tactically or with skill or talent or tact, and just smack it. Bam. Out of the park, home run. Same way I get the dogs here. That was my goal in this one. I wanted to get a canine unit. I've never got a canine unit in this game, but I finally got one. And that's what I kept doing for the rest of the season. Every time somebody threw the ball at me, all or nothing. I would get 1, 2, 3 strikes, swing at everything, and I would either get a home run or I would just be out and I would go home. And I actually had one of the better batting averages on the season, but until near the end, one of the pitchers decided to be a little bit cruel and ding me right in the face with the baseball, and that kind of shook me up mentally. Another good one I have is in energy systems design. In college, I was stuck with a bad group, and they just handed me a project that should have taken 3 people 3 days to do, and they're just like, you have to do this in 6 hours, and my grades were bad, and I was going to fail, and they just left me. So I had a choice between doing this and failing, probably going to fail, or not doing it and just relaxing. I decided to try as hard as I possibly could, and I was just going to make these equations work, and I was going to force them. I was trying as many different things, referencing as many people, making phone calls, making stuff up, and working, and I got it almost kind of sort of halfway done and went to the professor to beg for advice. And he says, "Where's the rest of your group?" And I'm like, "They went home." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "They just left me with this. They went to go work on something else and told me to do this by myself." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "When did you work on this?" And I told him that, I'd been doing it for a few hours, and at this point I was definitely bullshitting, hoping for mercy. And he's like, "Well, this isn't quite right, but for one person working for a couple hours, this is really good." And he showed me how to do it, and I got an A. And on the paper, and they split the grades for us and punished them and rewarded me, which was pretty awesome. And you can apply the same kind of logic here in Call of Duty. You've seen me play these games, and sometimes I get really good feeds, sometimes I get score streaks. Usually I'm using a weird gun. I try not to use the easy stuff too often, but I don't get this by not going for it. I just don't, walk around kind of randomly hoping that people will run into me popping objectives. If you haven't noticed, I'm really chasing people. I'm really trying to line up feeds. I'm really trying to flank and work and survive, and that's what you have to do. If you don't go for the awesome gameplay, if you don't go for the really long shots, if you don't try to take the shots that you don't really think you can make, then you're never going to get them. But if it's like the old sports saying, "Oh, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take." But if you really go for it, if you really reach out for it, it is possible and it is doable. And the last thing I wanted to tell you is that trying something does not guarantee success. Trying something, going for these long shots, all or nothings, it only guarantees the possibility of success. So you need to be comfortable with that and balance your risk and reward. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the commentary. Drifter out.